Yeah, Susie, you definitely said a mouthful. I mean, I love how you broke that down. It's a very practical way, just about knowing the person, knowing how they communicate, how they receive certain things. Because, like you said, there's a way that you can say something. It could be the
Yeah,
exact
and it
same
trigger.
message, but
Yeah,
your delivery can either throw the person off or make them, open up to you and kind of share, whatever their struggles may be. And there's something that you said earlier that I thought was really, important. During your journey, you asked, some of the medical professionals, you know, is there not like a support group to, for
yeah.
women who are and families who are going through this type of thing? So tell us, how did you start your blog series and your foundation? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we got through our process, we had our children. I think that was about in 2019. I went through a training about branding and sharing your values with people, affecting lives around you. After that training, it was very provocative, and I thought, okay, there's actually a story that I have that I haven't actually shared out there with people. I have shared it with friends that are close to us. I have shared it a little bit here and there, but not publicly out there in detail. So I started the series in 2019. I started writing about my journey. I started talking about the different. I think I was focusing more in my series about the the perception of other people, the cultural, the sociological. So I was dealing with those deep rooted stereotypes of seeing women and assuming that something is wrong with them. And I was dealing with all kinds of mother-in-laws, not letting their daughter-in-laws rest and things like that. So I was writing about them and sharing, creating awareness that this thing is real and people are going through a lot and you shouldn't even add more to what they're going through. So while I was sharing that, people started commenting. The engagement was amazing, and people were coming behind doors, like coming via my DM and saying, "Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm really really encouraged, and it's good to know that there's someone I can speak to or I can tell something." And they just kept coming and coming. Actually, two ladies that confided in me in those days of my series. One is in Canada, one is in Ghana. They have their children now. And they were the first two people that conceived within the period I started the series. And I think they both have toddlers now. So it's quite a long time. And also, when we conceived, we had friends around us because I was excited. 2 months in, I was like, oh my God, this is pregnancy. I can see the signs. So we went to one of our friends and we told them about the news. It wasn't even long they conceived too. So it was like, oh my God, this is working. So one day I sat down in my office because I did my master's as gender and development, MA in gender and development. So while I was there, I had opportunity to speak to students that come from different countries who comes to the center to study, development studies. So I met a Zimbabwean who lived in South Africa, and she came like this is just connecting to the previous question you just asked me, NK. So she asked me, no, while we're talking, she said she's been married for 7 years. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I asked her, are you guys planning to have kids? I'm not quite sure how she felt, but anyway, she told me, oh yes. And then she was like, we've been trying for 7 years. Actually, I've
Mm.
had several IVFs, I've had this, I've had that. She stood in front of my office to tell me all of this. We didn't film. Women, when you're ready to talk, you just talk. It flows naturally. And so she just told me everything, like that she's done everything and they're struggling to conceive. So she came for her master's for just like a break, career progression and a break. As I was like, then I felt the nudge to share my story because my story was still fresh. At that time, I had my baby. So my baby was like 3, 4 months. No, I haven't gone back to 3 months. I think he was 5 months old. And I shared the story with her. That was around September 2016. Yes, September 2016. And she went home for Christmas to, South Africa, came back in January, and she was looking for me in the whole place building. And she was like, "Where is Susie? Where is Susie?" She grabbed me one day and said, "Look, guess what? Guess what?" I was like, "What?" She said, "I'm pregnant." I was like, "Ah!" I screamed. I screamed. I was so joyful. I was like, "What? What happened?" She said she just went home, to see her husband for the Christmas holiday, and she's back with pregnancy. And
Wow.
that was how something in me, like there was, like an awakening. Something in me felt so joyful. I was like, this is good. So just sharing my story. So can you take your mind back to the previous thing we were talking about? Imagine if you don't talk to people around you, and tell them about what is happening around you, things like this. You will not even be able to transfer some of the positive stories you have to them. They wouldn't know that you've been through the same thing. So imagine if we didn't have that conversation. Because I encouraged her in that call. I told her, look, you're going to get pregnant. Don't worry about it, and things like that. So when we start to hide this whole thing and treat infertility like a god, something that should like an untouchable things, we are actually limiting ourselves. We are reducing the kind of there's a spiral blessing that is being transferred. I don't know how to explain it, but we are reducing it and we're holding information from people, and there'll be more and more infertility cases because we're not even sharing the good news that we already have.
Right.
Anyway, how did we even get here? Before I forget, what question was I answering? I just got lost in that.
No,
Okay,
Susie,
yes.
you're
No,
on point.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
So, you know, back listening to that testimony, those testimonies, and me sharing my blog series on Facebook, and people coming to me and we chatting about. I felt, oh, I think it's better that we have a support group because these ladies coming to me experienced the same thing that I experienced. They didn't have a neutral place where they could come and rant, like express themselves. Like today, you had an IUI and you were like, oh, that was terrible. Who else have had an IUI here? How did you feel? What do I expect tomorrow? So I felt it would be too big for me as a mom and family person to be talking to people one by one. I'm not even a counselor. I'm not a medical person. So that was becoming, so I thought the smartest way to do this would be to create a support group where we can all have people that are going through this journey and they can all support themselves together. So I went ahead and I created what we call the Marinade Hub support group for families going through infertility. So note it's for families because I was very specific. I did not hear women because we women always get into support groups. They will somehow find a way to get a support, but men will never get such support. It's hard, especially in this subject. It's the hardest thing for men to even talk about. I can't remember how many times my husband talked about this thing with people. So I felt that putting women would then push men away, and because we want to change the whole narrative of infertility not being a women's issue but a family issue. So we called it families going through infertility. We started the group in 2021 September, and people were so excited. Friends were congratulating us, and the group started and people were sharing. So we'll make this buzzer post and we ask, how is it going with you, what are you experiencing, and people will start sharing all the things that they're experiencing, their journey and stuff. And yeah, it was huge. I mean, it was also burdening because it feels like when you read some of the experiences, you're feeling a weight, a weight, a weight on your shoulder. It was, yeah, I could relate to some of them. That was how we started our support group.